going to kick off with Shannon, where residents are growing increasingly frustrated and anxious following a spate of break-ins and car thefts across local housing estates. Joining me now to discuss the impact on the community and what needs to be done are Doody, the Sinn Féin local area representative, and local resident Saoirse Sparkes, who recently shared her own experience. And Shane and Saoirse, you're welcome to the show. And Shane, I might start with yourself. You described the recent incidents in Shannon as completely unacceptable on social media. So can you tell us more on that? And what are residents telling you on the ground about how serious this problem has become?
Good morning, Alan. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I suppose, this is over a recent kind of couple of weeks there that there's been an increase in attempted break-ins and car thefts. And it seems that kind of no area of Shannon in particular is being hit. It's one end of the town and then it's the other end of the town. So I suppose there is a growing sense of unease among residents. And I know the guards are doing their best in terms of trying to build an investigation around this. So what I would say is that people do their best to support the guards in trying to identify the group responsible for this and the people behind this.
And in terms of how long this has been going on, Shane, are we talking, weeks, a month or two, longer?
Well, there's always kind of been, there's always been a couple of incidences that have happened and been around. But I suppose in the recent kind of couple of weeks, there's definitely been an increase in terms of what's happening on the ground and people reporting incidences through social media and telling neighbours and stuff. Because Shannon is a very hard-working community. There's a sense of trust still there in the community, and that's put at risk when you have things like this happening. And people, this is happening at a time as well where people are being pushed to the pin of their collar at a cost of living crisis. So it's really abhorrent that you have a group of organised, and I'll use the word organised loosely, thugs who are going after people's very hard-earned possessions. So like I said, there's a trust there among the community that's put at risk when you have this going on. So people need to support the guards to make sure that they can identify this group and they can curb what's happening.
Yeah, and indeed your post about this on social media gathered quite a bit of traction, and one of the people who responded to it was yourself, Saoirse Sparkes. What can you tell us about what happened in your situation and how greatly it affected you?
Hi Alan, hi Shane. Well, last Monday, it was the early hours of Monday morning at 3:45 in the morning when my doorbell went off. Well, actually it alerted me later because there's a bit of delay in it. And there was the guy, it showed the guy trying my door. There was three guys, one walking across the road, the other side of the road. There was another guy I could see trying the next door neighbour's car. And then they got into my car. Unfortunately, it was unlocked, but there was nothing to take. They just pulled things out, opened the boot. But it really scared me. You hear of it happening to other people, but when it happens to yourself and you see them on the doorbell, it's really scary.
Yeah, and like that in the moment, if you discover it afterwards, Saoirse, I'm sure there's like a shiver that goes up and down your spine that, thieves like that were within the vicinity of your home and trying to rob your property. But when you actually witness it happening, I would imagine that's amplified.
It's really scary. And then it turned to anger after a day or two, that they think they can just walk in and take whatever you have, take your car or whatever it is, things that you've worked really hard for. But I have to say, I have to compliment the guards on the way they responded to me. They've been fantastic.
Yeah, and indeed you were stressing that in your response to Shane's post in terms of how they dealt with your case. What kind of support did you receive from them?
Well, I wasn't even going to ring them in the first place until my daughters told me to. They were at my house within 10 minutes. Then the next day they sent people up to take fingerprints at my workplace, although there was no point because they were wearing gloves. They called at my house that evening. They called the next evening. They went around to the neighbours. The victim support unit rang me on Monday afternoon. They couldn't have been more helpful. They were, and they are really frustrated. It's very hard to catch them. They're wearing gloves. Their faces are covered. I couldn't even see a side profile they were so well covered on the camera.
Well, and does that suggest to you this is quite organised, what's happening?
I think it's the same. Yes, it is. I think so. And I saw footage of another incident in East Clare. I don't know exactly where, and it looks like the exact same guy that was at my door. He quite a distinctive walk.
I mean, look, the response from the Gardaí sounds quite thorough, and I guess it's good to get that message out there as well, given what's happening in Shannon at the moment, from what you and Shane are telling us. And I guess at a time when many people are frustrated and afraid, Saoirse, is it important to publicly acknowledge that Garda response?
Yes, I think so. I think a lot of people give out that the guards won't do anything, but they did everything for me, and their hands are really tied. I mean, they're trying their best. But I think it's important to let everybody know and, make sure everything's locked up. Unfortunately, this is the way it is now. I think the Ring doorbells are fantastic. They're very reasonable, and unfortunately, this is the way it is. We have to have extra security, and that's another thing. Now it's cost me. Now I'm putting extra security in. It's just really frustrating.
Yeah, I'm sure frustration is one of the many feelings you had during the incident and in the immediate aftermath of it. And Shane, Saoirse describing seeing it happening, it's no wonder that some residents are saying they no longer feel safe in their own homes, and none of us would want to go through what Saoirse went through. Seeing something happening quite in the vicinity of your own home and feeling powerless to do anything about it. I mean, how worrying is it from a community perspective that some residents no longer feel safe in their own homes, and what needs to change to restore confidence, Shane?
Well, look, it's very worrying, and what Saoirse has gone through is very distressing, and I can only imagine how distressing it is for herself and for her family as well. So, I mean, that has a wider impact then on the community. That, like I said, there's a growing sense of unease among some residents, and some of the stuff that Saoirse has mentioned around the extra security. I mean, those are helpful, like the Ring doorbells. They're very helpful. So I would say if anyone has any information relating to any of the incidences that have happened over the past couple of weeks, to please bring that to the Shannon Gardaí. And also, Saoirse had mentioned that, she was hesitant at first to ring the guards, and that's something that kind of needs to get out there as well, that you need to report anything that has happened, no matter how small or how big, to the guards, because I mean, that's how the system responds. That's how they get more resources to come and tackle these kind of things. And that's how they gather their information and their intel to build the cases on these criminals.
Yeah, so you're agreeing there, Saoirse. And do you suspect that some people aren't reporting incidents, and I guess would there be a number of reasons for that? That maybe they feel their incident what's happened to them isn't huge in the grand scheme of things. Maybe, given what you're saying about the Garda response to yourself, they fear that it won't be responded to, or in a manner that would deal with the issue, or are there a number of reasons at play there?
I think so. I think it's very important that you report it, so they build up a case, and put all the information together. I didn't expect them to do anything, because really they didn't get into my house. They didn't take anything from my car, but they did. It was very important to them, and to build the case. So I would just say, make sure to report every incident. And they were very, very helpful.
I was talking there about some residents not feeling safe, Saoirse. I mean, how safe do you personally feel in your home now? And has this incident changed your day-to-day behaviour in any way? How you go about things?
Yes. I would say that this week I'm more jumpy. I'm looking out the window. I'm just like concerned coming in from work, opening the door. It just makes you nervous. I just sort of haven't settled back to myself yet, and that's upsetting. It shouldn't be this way.
No, it shouldn't be, but how you're feeling is entirely understandable. And Shane, you have said the Gardaí need to be supported in their efforts. Is part of that, in terms of the role the local community can play, or measures like neighbourhood watch schemes part of the solution, or is it going to take more than that in terms of Gardaí being sufficiently supported and resourced to deal with these crimes?
Well, definitely the community has a role to play in this. And like I said, reporting is one of those things that people in the community can do. Again, if anyone has any information to send that to the Shannon Gardaí. And neighbourhood watches they're effective when they're up and running. And those are done in partnership with the Gardaí, which is very important. And I know there is, with the Shannon Community Partnership within the neighbourhood task group, that's something that was discussed, and I know that's something that they're working on in implementing in more estates across Shannon. So that would be really beneficial for the guards. Like I said, it's done in partnership with them. It would be beneficial in kind of restoring and fostering some of that trust back into the estates as well. And that overall kind of community side to it has to come in.
We'll leave it there. My thanks to Shane Doody and to Saoirse Sparkes for joining us on Morning Focus.